Alright, Hattie Red Faction. Live right now on the Twitch. I was going to do some blood hunt and everything, so if you see me show why you're talking about Destiny when you're showing when you're in the Rivals directory, that's probably going to be why. But with that being said, the Dev Insight for the abilities and armor preview is available now. Pretty early in terms of, you know, the normal stuff. So yeah. We'll have the TWID probably that will come out about an hour after. So then when that's done, we'll read that. But Dev Insights Abilities and Armor Preview. Welcome back to our third and final Dev Insight article before Monument of Triumph, which launches on June 9th. June 9th through the 16th, I will be playing Destiny so much, I will probably fall back in love with it, but I'll be playing mostly Gambit and doing other stuff on the side. For the most part. So a little TLDR. What's going to be included? New subclass abilities, ability reworks, balance changes, and then all the armor stuff. Preview for the exotic armor balance, exotic armor stats, armor set bonuses, and armor archetypes. This will be interesting. So, ability sandbox. Here we go. Hey there, Guardians. Gameplay team here with an update on the ability sandbox for the upcoming Monument of Triumph. We've been heads down dreaming up new abilities and refining existing ones, and we got some juicy changes to talk about today. Let's get into it. New subclass abilities, new solar and void aspects. For too long, certain subclasses have lagged behind others in number of aspects available to them. Monument of Triumph will remedy that with 3 new aspects, bringing every non-exotic subclass up to 4. First up, Titans. Sunbreaker Shield Burst. So basically reading the description of this. Enhances your solar equipped barricade with equipped barricade with solar abilities. Using the towering barricade, your barricade slides forward across the ground before stopping, allowing you to advance in safety. Rally barricade, standing behind your barricade grants scorching rounds to your allies, solar and kinetic weapons. What? Scorching rounds to solar and kinetic weapons. So if you have a kinetic weapon that has, oh, I don't know, kinetic tremors, well, now it's going to be scorching them too. While your barricade is deployed, activate your class ability again to remotely detonate it. Scorching combatants caught in the detonation, dealing damage increases the power of the blast. This ability increases with your class stat when your class stat is 100 or higher. Okay. A little preview of what it looks like. So it moves forward. Activate class ability again. And okay. The shield burst aspect essentially turns your. So that's the tower one. Yeah, good lord, that is nuts. And that one has wow. So with how it looks, is essentially it'll charge up over time when it takes damage, and when you deal damage while it's active, the more charged up it is, the more damage it will do, and more projectiles it will throw out. It plays nicely with like Aber Warden, Hollow Fire Heart, and Kefri's Horn. This ability damage is buffed by the Roaring Frames aspects and creates sunspots when paired with the Soul Invictus aspect. Damage from this ability also scales to your class stat. Okay. So basically what you're telling me is that the more damage, when it blocks damage, it builds up a charge. When you deal damage while it's active, it'll become more charged up as well, and then you can detonate it, and it will explode. So I feel like Rally Barricade is going to be very good, and I feel like Towering Barricade will be that kind of nice, like, okay, we need to, like, this enemy's far away and dealing a lot of damage. Let's get there safely, throw it out, run behind it, instead of just, like, standing there. Okay. In addition, you'll find other class ability aspects that deal. In addition, you'll find other class ability aspects that deal damage that scales with the class ability. Note that Warlock construct damage continues to scale with the grenade stat instead. Next, the new Hunter aspect for Solar, Crackshot. Activate your class ability to fire up to 3 scorching shots at combatants you've marked. Aim at targets to mark them. Landing 3 shots cures you. Huh? What is this? Oh, good lord. So this is an aspect. So when you aim at enemies, it now replaces your dodge with this. Great. That in PvP is going to be annoying. Crackshot is the ultimate gunslinger fantasy. Mark up to 3 targets, then dodge to quickfire flame pistol and light them up with deadeye precision. If you have a single target marked, it will fire all 3 shots at them. If you have multiple targets, it will split shots between them. Landing all 3 shots will cure you, providing you with some breathing room mid-combat. It can also be used while airborne, and damage scales with your class ability. And the Warlocks don't get a new one. There's some strong exotic armor combos, including Radiant Dance Machines and 6 Coyote. Really? You just had to mention that one? Okay, also pairs well with On Your Mark and Gunpowder Gamble, as Crackshot damage counts towards their progress. Last but not least, the new Warlock one. So, ready this aspect by striking a foe with your powered melee ability. Once ready, press your melee again to begin siphoning energy from all combatants in front of you, dealing damage and gathering overshield and class ability energy from each target. Soul Siphon is scaled by the melee stat. Ready this aspect by striking a foe with your powered melee once ready. So it's just a melee hit. Okay. This is what it looks like. It's a good bit of range. Soul Siphons turns you into the life-draining vampire mage you've always meant to be. The Voidwalker's Pocket Singularity has 2 charges by default, making the base time up like for this high, but building into melee regeneration will make it pay off even more. Building into the melee stat also increases the uptime. This pairs well with Felwinter's Helm, Claws of Ahamkar, and Karstein Armaments. Hold on. Yeah, pairs well with that. Necrotic grips, people. Think about it. Okay. Let me talk to you. Okay. Just give me a second. Okay. Let's go to necrotic grips here. Okay. So necrotic grips already passively gain 30 airborne effectiveness to, Thorn, Osteostriga, Touch of Mouse, and Necrochasm. Melee hits apart necrotic poison. Okay. Poison deals kinetic damage. Poison enemies spread poison to death in a 5-meter radius. Okay. The first poison stick is about 32 damage in PvE. It ramps up even more. Okay. So, that's necrotic grips. That's what that does. So you're telling me now, okay, that this, which just hitting the melee, allows you to then snatch their soul. So, and then when we look at, one of the fragments which helps with ability hits, and when you do any void damage, cause the targets to explode. So if you have necrotic on top of it, you're going to have even more of that. New darkness grenades. Stasis and Strand are near and dear to our hearts, and they deserve some love. Right. So the new Stasis grenade is called a Shatter Grenade. A grenade that sticks to combatants before exploding into razor-sharp stasis shrapnel. Shrapnels ricochet off of surfaces, dealing damage for all rounds passed. Hitting a frozen target shatters it instantly and deals bonus damage. So this is what it basically looks like. It's the stasis. Yeah, that looks like it's going to be annoying. And any frozen target that gets hit by it also causes that. It's dealing damage. Through direct hits will freeze combatants and slow enemy players. It's effective for enclosed places where shrapnel can bounce off and hit multiple targets, but it's also effective against loosely grouped enemies. If you throw it at an enemy who's already frozen, it will explode immediately. Hunter Revenant enjoyers will be happy to know that the Touch of Winter aspect has a unique interaction with this grenade. On a related note, while back we changed Stasis Shadow damage to stun overloads instead of unstoppable, we're reverting that change, so Stasis Shadow will now again stun unstopped instead of overloads. As Shadow Name's name implies, it will stun unstoppable champions immediately on detonation. The new strand is called a Slice Wire Grenade. A grenade bounces and leads multiple whirling threads that sever targets. This is what it looks like. Okay. Wait, what? Oh, that's a Scorn. Wait, yeah, this is Scorn. The Strand Slicewire Grenade is a damage dealer. First and foremost, it also severs targets, lowering their damage output. After being thrown, the grenade bounces along the ground, unleashing coiled strands that whip around, striking enemies up to 4 times. The damage can really pile on if you're able to land all 4 lashes in a group of enemies. This grenade also has a unique functionality when paired with the Broodweaver, with Warlock's Broodweaver Mindspun Invocation, which will let you discover on your own. Now the new melee. Dash forward, slashing combatants as you pass through them, dealing significant increased damage to void debuff targets or targets marked on the prowl. Generate a void overshield for each combatant hit. Defeating at least one combatant grants an additional overshield and refunds melee energy. So basically, this is like just a quick little dash ability. Oh. Whereas tossing is a passive action, Phantom Surge allows you to go through enemies. The overshield you gain from hitting enemies is substantial, and our brilliant engineer team created a new tech for this ability that enables you to face straight through enemy units. The damage is increased versus Void debuff, giving a strong potential to combat with other abilities and weapons. Smoke Bomb is gaining some love. It now makes you and other allies invisible by default on deployment. No vanishing step required. Other elements of the Night Stalker units are also being reworked, but we'll talk about that next. So, Trapper's Ambush. Activate your inner move to consume your class ability and dive to the ground, damaging enemies on impact. Damage is greatly increased if striking while you have any positive void status effect. Damaging enemies with this ability heals you, and defeating combatants with this ability grants Devour. So now hunters just get Devour. Awesome. Night Stalker previously had several ways to go invisible, but not many ways to capitalize on invisibility. Trapper's Ambush is now substantially a damage dealer, and that damage is increased if you cast it while invisible or on the effects of another Void buff. So if you have a Void Overshield, Devour, or you're invisible, casting it while invisible will refresh your invisibility when you hit the ground, and it retains its previous Smoke Cloud behavior when paired with Vanishing Step. Trapper's Ambush now uses class ability instead of melee energy, and thus activates class ability perks like Marksman's Dodge and Gambler's Dodge. This enables you to combo it with the new Phantom Surge melee in creative ways. Finally, after defeating enemies with Trapper's Ambush, grants Devour, giving the Night Stalker more survivability more than ever before. It also has a new animation, new visual effects, and features a Void Blade instead of a Smoke Bomb. So I'm going to tell you this right now. Hunters, if you're not using Rat King, what's wrong with you? Now for the new, basically I call this the bubble shield from Halo. So when we activate Ward of Dawn now, okay, you see you activate Ward of Dawn, it pulls in the enemies, but you can pick it back up, and when it lands, it throws them in. But it also does what Vortex does, and the charged up Vortex grenade, and it pulls enemies in. Okay. Ward of Dawn is now a giant Thunderdome that you fight inside. At twice its previous size, this new bubble has this as a Sentinel's domain, expanding the sphere influence on the battlefield. You and your allies are buffed both offensively and defensively while inside, and your enemies are debuffed. Once you've bested your enemies inside the bubble, simply pick up the core and throw it somewhere and reposition the Thunderdome. On deployment, nearby enemies are being pulled into the dome, and base commanders will be taunted by the players inside. The Helm of Saint 14 has also been reworked to extend the time of Ward of Dawn that the ward lives, and it allows you and your allies to take weapons to light outside the dome. In Crucible, to make sure to protect the ward's core as it serves as the ward's weak point, the new bubble holds a couple other secrets that you'll discover on your own. Finally, our final highlight ability rework. Let's look at the Warlock. Warlock Broodweaver Mindspun Amplification plus the Threadling Grenade, causing it to leave a threadling nest at the impacted location after repeatedly. So now instead of just consuming it, it now makes the threadling nest. So would it be really good to use it with Demifusion? Or would it be better to use with something else? Mindspun Invocation currently causes threadling grenades to be perched, but starting Money Moon Triumph, you can charge it to create a threadling nest. Essentially allows you to weave a threadling nest, a threadling turret on the battlefield, and give you additional angle of attack. The nest also interacts with the Service Electro Exotic Machine Gun to enhance its productivity. Stasis Harvest Aspects. The three Stasis Harvest Aspects, Tectonic Harvest, Grim Harvest, and Glacial Harvest, need some love, so we reworked them. All stasis subclasses now create stasis shatter shards intrinsically. Shatter shards are created when a stasis guardian shatters a stasis crystal or frozen enemy, or when they defeat a slowed or frozen enemy. Harvest aspects will give you frost armor when you pick up a blah blah blah. Well, you have frost armor. Defeating enemies with stasis or kinetic weapon has a chance to shatter them, dealing damage around the ship. Okay. While you have frost armor, taking damage now grants ability energy. Titans get melee, warlocks get grenade, and hunters get class. Reduce fragment slots from 2 to 3, or from 3 to 2. Frost armor stacks now melt off one at a time instead of all at once. Each stack gives slightly more damage resistance. Damage at 5 stacks is up to 35%. When using a stasis subclass, you now create shatter shards without equipping the harvest aspects. The harvest aspects will continue to get frost armor when you pick up a stasis shard and grant more powerful benefit while you have it. Meanwhile, Frost Armor stacks now fall off one at a time. Oh, okay. Ability changes. Heat rises. Well, heat act for the warlock. Well, heat rises active. It now reduces the accuracy of combatants versus the warlock. Heat rises will no longer decreases the initial burst of speed provided by activating burst glide. Icarus dash increase fragment slots from 2 to 3. Okay. Stormcaller chain lightning melee, and now it has increased damage versus that, and has 2 charges. Lightning surge increased fragment slots from 2 to 3. Voidwalker. Now suppresses commands for a short time after the initial attach. Increase the child's speed and acceleration, and increase the fragment slots from 2 to 3. The Cataclysm super, allied projectiles now pass through the Nova Bomb instead of colliding with it. This is just a quality of life. Frost Pulse now grants 5 stacks of frost armor if this ability freezes a target. Increase the fragment slots from 2 to 3. Wrathweavers, anyone? This is just quality of life. When the player offensive bulwark, when the player has an overshield, final blows will now grant melee energy. Unbreakable. Final blows with Unbreakable grant Devour. So when you use the Unbreakable's blast, you get Devour now as long as you kill something. And increase the size of it. Bastion, increase the fragment slots. Shield Bash your melee, increase damage risk advanced by 100%. Striker, Thruster, can now be activated while in the air. Knockout, no longer grants a lunge increase versus enemy players. This change should reduce the awkward rubber banding in crucible melee battles. Touch of Thunder. Lightning Grenade will now grant 5 stacks of bolt charge per hit. Flashbang now explodes on the initial bounce in addition to its existing detonation. Storm Grenade has a 0.5 increase to it. The tracking speed is up by 38. And the tracking speed is increased. Seismic Strike, that's been up. Hammer Strike, that's up. Diamond Lance, reduce the size of the freeze detonation when the Diamond Lance is thrown versus players. Cryoclasm, sliding while you have Frost Armor now launches Stasis Wave that shatters stasis crystals and throws enemies in front of you. And Glacial Quake, heavy attacks now deal additional damage in the area in front of the Titan. Dragoner's Lash aspect, defeating elementally debuffed targets now grants class ability energy. Increase the fragment slots to 3. Suspending Wave image scales with your class stat. Oh boy. Kind of, to be honest with you, like this and like this is better. Hunter on the Prowl. In addition to acquiring a target when you become invisible, will now also passively acquire a target after a short time if you're not invisible. The passive acquisition does not occur against enemy guardians. Reduce the maximum Mobius quiver buff to crossbow weapons by 50%. What? Acrobat's dodge class ability can now be activated while in air. Proximity exploding knife, increase the detonation size. And the damage on your mark now grants Solar Restoration 1 for 3 seconds instead of Cure after final blows at 10 stacks. Knock him down grants Cure on super activation. Blade Barrage increase the projectile speed and tracking, increase the detonation size. Increase the knife damage detonation, and knife detonation is now Scorch. Deadshot Golden Gun reduce super energy gain from player kills by 40. um, that's oh god, Shards of Galanor. Anyone? Holy. Um, Jesus, this is a lot for fucking like just like okay, yeah, yeah, good, 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 and then you got like Warlocks. You got like this chunk. Titans got like oh god, and then Hunters are like, hey, look, now everything gets fucking buffed. Um, Arc Strider, Arc Staff, Super now grants Bolt Shard stacks on kills. Lethal Current now jolts and creates Aftershock when used with Tempest Strike. Can now be activated while in Super. Ascension destination now skills with your class ability energy. Now counts as a class ability for all perks and abilities. Rope Dart successfully catching the rope now grants Woven Mail based on the number of targets it defeated. Increase the fragment slots. The Spectre's detonation damage now scales with your class stat. The Snare Slam now counts as a class ability for all perks and abilities. Shadow Dive, increased fragment slots. Winter Shroud, increased fragment slots. Uh, Lightning Grenade, increased detonation damage. Scatter Grenades reduce the chase distance versus players. And reduce the amount of grenade energy this ability gains from perks by 12. Grapple. Damage against combatants. Reduce the max grapple melee damage. Oh, God. Against boss combatants, damage granted by bonus damage granted by the melee is now additive instead of multiple. What the fuck? In PvP, when beginning a match, you will only have one charge. I mean, don't I only get that anyways? Stasis, Whisper of Rhyme, the fragment, max stacks will now be 7 instead of 8. Spark of Shock, when Jolt is applied via an Arc Soul or an Arc Sentry, there's now a 4-second timer internal cooldown for applying Jolt again via these constructs. Void invisibility is now more visible in the Crucible. I mean, okay, sure. Volatile round status effect now increases weapon damage versus champions. Weapons with volatile rounds no longer stun barrier champions. Weapon architecture now governed based on champion stuns. See last week. So yeah, even if a weapon has volatile rounds, if the weapon is like an unstoppable or an overload, even having volatile rounds won't do anything against barriers. Radiant increased weapon damage versus. So if you're Radiant, you deal more damage against champions, but it will no longer stun barriers. Ability stats reduce the passive cooldown bonus granted by stats by 20%, and reduce the maximum ability cooldown granted by ability stats to 190 to 125. What? Regarding change to the ability stats, we feel Destiny combat has leaned slightly too far in favor of using abilities. No. And we like to shift it further in favor of using weapons, which you should have. This reduction in ability uptime paired with a general increase to primary and special ammo damage that we detailed in last week's article about weapon changes. The floor for ability uptime remains where it is in the live game, but the ceiling that brought down to avoid heavily optimized builds from trivializing combat abilities remain incredibly potent and powerful, especially with the new and adjusted abilities detailed above. Another change we want to provide some context for: reduce super energy generation from dealing damage to bosses by 60. With the changes to super generation, the super stat and edge fade, the boss damage meta shifted hard into super spam. It became possible to cast more than 6 supers in a single boss phase, which isn't the pace where you want supers to live. With our eternal dungeon raid test groups to roof okay to a healthier place. Supers are effective for boss damage, but Guardians will now need to think more about their weapons and other abilities to make the most of a damage phase. That represents that most of the ability changes coming in this release. There are some more fine-tuning adjustment build tweaks that we opted for sake of brevity, but you'll find those in the patch notes. Armor archetypes. Our general goal for armor archetypes are as follows. Armor archetypes allow you to help understand and communicate your build crafting option with stats. Each of the 6 stats should be equally represented. Armor archetypes should support in many builds. There should be as few armor archetypes as possible. Adding too many bloats to the amount of armor you may want to keep in your vault and the size of the random pool. Top of make it hard to learn, understand, and communicate with stats for the build. No single armor archetype should dominate the build crafting space for the game. We expect that the nature of stats means that some archetypes are more popular for specific activities. This is more about not making a best armor archetype for all non-crucible activities or vice versa. We think that the original 6 armor types filled the goal admirably. However, certain builds were simply more tools to get the stats they need. Since this usually doesn't limit the power of a build, but instead primarily a variety, we plan on addressing this by adding 6 new armor types. Click on each for a sample armor. Okay, so let's see. So this one is health and grenade stat. This looks to be a Lightfall one. No, this is Witch Queen. Huh. Okay. Beyond Light one. Skirmisher, this one is primarily set to melee and weapons. Huh. Okay. Oh. Demolitionist, this is a grenade and class ability one. Okay. This is the Lightfall one. It's super and health based. Okay. What's this one? Oh, this is the Nessus one. This one is class and melee. When your shields become broken, something with orbs of power and ammo bricks. When you gain, lose, or gain damage reduction. Okay. And then this is the one from the Cosmodrome. This is called Powerhouse, which was one of his weapons and super. I think this is going to be a good set for me to get for Nezarec. Just give me a little idea. So, Siegebreaker, this. So I think for me, Powerhouse and Skirmish, Skirmisher are 2 good ones for me to have. Our goal is that despite the exciting options for those, yes, we're looking at you, Powerhouse, with your current builds that won't be so class that you must replace them with roles. If you want to experiment or fine-tune your stats, there you go. Almost any new Armor 3.0 drop from anywhere in the game can drop with the new archetypes. The only exception are the exotic class items that will keep their existing stat roll behavior. Okay. What about the missing stat combinations? Aren't there like 30 possible archetypes? As mentioned above, we want to avoid bloating the pool, making a clear best choice for all Crucible and all PvE. We want to keep each stat represented. Okay. Okay. So let's talk exotic armor stats. When we originally released Armor 3.0, we had a long-term plan to give exotic armors a way to access higher tier behavior. Originally, we planned to give them a deterministic route for upgrade. However, we ultimately realized that it was healthier for the game to take the most straightforward approach. Moving forward, all exotic armor will have tier 5 stats and will have access to all tuning mods. This applies retroactively to all Armor 3.0 exotics other than the collection rolls. So if you don't want to trade your armor out for one of the new archetypes, you won't have to acquire them again. Armor set bonuses. As they settled into the sandbox, we've seen Guardians leverage armor set bonuses in a lot of different ways. Overall, we're happy to see how they fit into the role. However, here's a couple things we felt we should address. First, there's two armor set perks that weren't big enough outliers that we need that they needed balance adjustments. The smoke jumper set damage resistance you get now is 40%. While the rapid decay nature of this damage reduction means it can provide a high bonus without being a problem, the high availability of orbs of power, gained with the stacking from other damage resistant sets. Okay, we believe this just okay. Increase the health granted while moving from 15 to 30 per second outside of the crucible. Okay. The second issue is simultaneously more straightforward heart. Okay, we're refreshing the massive amount of gear across the game. This includes more set bonuses than we've previously made compressed into a single release. We don't expect these to fully replace existing options, which will be available to earn, but you can look forward to a many array from elemental effects, ability synergies, and survivability to explosions, movement, and echoes of armor mods past. There's something for everyone to whet your appetite in addition to some of the sets we've seen announced. Let's preview a pair of destination sets. Exodus Dawn. When your shields become broken, collect all nearby orbs of power and ammo bricks. With a 4-piece, whenever you gain, lose, or spend armor charge, heal and gain damage reduction for a short time. This effect scales with the amount of armor charge gained, lost, or spent. So now making sure you have armor charge is a better thing with this one. From the Throne World, performing a finisher on a combatant or landing successful powered final melee final blows generate elemental pickup based on your light subclass. Performing a finisher on powerful combatants heals you and grants loyal void moths. Lightning Surge, anyone? Before we move on, we've seen one question that since Sensor Monument reveal we would like to address. Will Armor 3.0 version of Raid Armors still have access to Raid mods? No, Raid mods are a feature exclusive to the Armor 2.0 due to technical limitations. However, since certain Raid mods can sometimes be more valuable than a set bonus in specific situations, Armor 2.0 for all available raids will be focusable at Hawthorne for 10 spoils of conquest each. So Hunters, Wormhusk Crown. Reworked effect. Solar multi-kills grant burning souls, while active solar ability damage is increased and dodging greatly cures the player and nearby allies. Wait, what? Solar multi-kills grant burning souls. When you have burning souls, solar ability damage is increased, and dodging greatly cures the player and nearby allies. So you're telling me that with the new aspect where you can literally mark targets and fire 3 oh, good. And then this? Okay. Get solar multi-kills, get this, blah, blah, blah. There we go. Shards of Galanor. It's no Celestial Nighthawk or Knife Hawk. Wait, what? Hold on, wait, what? Landing 5 to 7 knives in a valley during the super causes a delayed solar explosion and releases solar shrapnel. This can happen with each volley of super knives. Landing both explosions is approximately comparable to a Kyros Thunderclap. What? Cabal's Hand. Increase the melee recharge bonus by 25%. Dealing damage with Scorch now refunds a small amount of the ignition final blows fully refund knife energy and can overflow into an additional charge. What? Frosties, you gain frost armor while sprinting. While you have frost armor, status weapons deal increased damage. Shinobu's Vow. When you use a skip grenade, now gain skip grenade energy whenever you gain a stack of bolt charge. Skip grenades damage now gets bolt charge. When you have a full bolt charge, you heal yourself and nearby allies and enable enhanced skip grenade. Enhanced skip grenades bounces 2 additional times before detonating, releasing bonus seekers per bow. I swear, I better see something absolutely broken for the Warlocks, because you hunters right now, you're starting to fucking piss me off again. Radiant Flux. Roman supers have long felt they're a bit rough to use in champion heavy combat. So when you have Radiant Flux, Arc Staff hits will now jolt them. Combo finisher Palm Blast now gets 1.5 base exotic bonus damage and reports as critical damage yellow numbers. Mothkeeper's Wraps. Mothkeeper's Wraps now provide moth grenades as a conditional override instead of a complete override. Getting kills from any source increments a counter. The amount added to the counter depends on kills per rank of enemy. Once it reaches 6, you gain 2 moth grenade charges. Increase the movement speed of the arcs by roughly that, and the void ones by that. I'm going to have to understand what the fuck this actually does. Both moths from the same grenade will now attempt to target separate targets, enemies or allies if possible. Lucky Pants. Oh, Lucky Pants. Increase Ariana's Vow's maximum what? Decrease Uncivil Discourse damage by that. Reduce Lucky Pants bonus damage versus bosses to that. Titans. Hollowfire Heart. While your super is charged, ability Final Blows Kyurem gives you stacks of Sunfire Furnace. While Sunfire Furnace is active, Grenade and Shield Burst Final Blows trigger an ignition. Each stack increases Grenade Regeneration, Class Ability Generation, Super damage. Upon exiting your super, all stacks are converted into Super Energy. So, decreased ability regeneration from 3.5 to 2.5. Okay, Pyro Gale. Slightly increase the Cyclone Scorch damage per tick. Increase the Cyclone's explosion damage. Increase its tracking. Oh, fuck. For Spirit of Star Eater, increase the Spirit of Star Eater benefit for Twilight Arsenal to 50%. Severance Enclosure, improved inclusion of the detonation, making it easier to hit with. Remove the effect that prevents combatants from being hit by multiple shockwaves. And such a okay. Enemies hit by the shockwaves are disoriented. Praxic Vestments. Increase melee attack damage by 500%. Increase jetpack fuel gain per kill in PvE to 20. Increase the fuel gain by a powered melee to 50. Update the exotic perk to recognize knockout as powered melee kills. Improve the jetpack. Decrease the wind-up time for flight to 0.5 seconds. Remove the behavior that causes jetpack flight to end early when contact is detected with the floor or a wall. Fix the bug that caused the jetpack to target dead enemies, ending flight early. Updated the camera to better convey your speed. No backup plans. To go non-void with the exotic visual shifting to match.
Could you call Todd so I can get right to the store?
Yeah.
Bill's not home.
Okay. So, now triggers and benefits off of both shotgun and melee hits. Shotgun and melee final blows grant health regeneration instead of a void overshield. Shotgun and melee final blows extend the timer of any active defense buffs on you. This includes a void overshield, restoration, amplified frost armor, and woven mail. Will partially heal void overshield upon activation by extension if the player has one. Shotgun damage is now active when you have any above noted defensive buffs, as well as also buffing melee damage. Okay. So if you have an overshield, you're amplified, you have restoration, you got frost armor, you got woven mail. Your shotgun Shotgun melee final blows will start your health regeneration. If you have any of these, you'll do additional damage and extend the duration of those buffs. Provides a moderate buff to a shotgun's airborne effectiveness. Fuck. Cadmus Ridge Lance Clap now also spawns stasis lances with rapid stasis weapon damage, or even in final blows, even when not behind the rally barricade. Now it grants bonus stasis lance damage based on the current stacks of frost armor. Point contact cannon brace. Activating Thunderclap also releases lightning strikes as you start winding up the punch. Lightning strikes scales with how much it is damage. With this stacks with bonus damage when casting while amplified. Reworked melee regeneration from the lightning strike to compensate for the new wave of bolts to charge up. No longer target tiered. Flat amount has been increased to this. Okay, some will hate for Selm. Helm of Saint 14 unchanged. Weapons continue to persist as the wearer and allies are. Weapons of light continue to persist for the wearer or for your allies upon leaving your Ward of Dawn. Okay, removed will no longer destroy its enemies within it, or upon blocking with Sentinel Shield. New functionality. While Weapons of Light is active, kills or sustained damage from any source grants stacks of the Saint. Under the same circumstances, void and kinetic damage will also suppress in a radius around the victim. Picking up your Ward of Dawn consumes all accrued stacks of the Saint and extends your ward's duration based on how many stacks were consumed. Helm of Saint 14's synergy with specific exotic weapon has also been adjusted. What do you mean with the specific what? No longer provides any melee damage resist versus players. Blast Wave Striders adjusted the projectile to mirror the Renegade's Behemoth Walker stasis detonation, decrease defeats to charge the meter, increase the tracking strength of shrapnel shards, place sliding on with on Shiver Strike hits as an activator. Oh, boy. Nezarec Sin. For a lot of players, Nezarec Sin has been a solid workhorse when all else fails. We want to modify we didn't want to modify this use case, but we did see an opportunity to tie in with the new Void Walker. Tie to the final God of Pain. It's your turn to devour your enemies. Who knows? Maybe he's still listening. New effect. Targets damaged by Soul Siphon are suppressed. Defeating suppressed targets with Soul Siphon grants 1.5 additional seconds of Abyssal Extractors. Medoxia. In terms of our super damage exotics, we wanted to fix a couple issues with it. It was dealing with its bonus damage, which is leading to lower values than expected. Increase the suspending burst damage from the super combined by 22%. This makes it equal to Kiro's Thunder Crash. Have at it. Skull of Dire Ahamkara. It's a classic exotic, but there's no reason to let it ossify. Returning energy on Final Bull is 2017. Last year, Voidwalker got a second melee charge and a second grenade charge with Scaleless Accelerant. Why not a second set of Nova Bomb? Better yet, how about we bring back Nova Bomb Lance? Why stop there? Maybe you can get your Cataclysm Nova Bomb with me.
Call him yet?
I'm in the middle of something.
Oh.
Okay, so new effect. After casting a Nova Bomb, you get a short period during which you can cast a Nova Bomb Lance. Destroying a Cataclysm Nova Bomb with a Nova Bomb Lance creates a Nova Vortex alongside the Cataclysmic Nova Bomb Seekers. Unchained super energy on Nova Bomb final blows and weapon final blows while you have Devour. Addition, damage resistance while casting Nova Bomb has been removed from the perk text, but remains a hidden functionality. So after casting Nova Bomb, briefly gain a free cast of a fast-moving but weaker Nova Bomb lance. Your Nova Bomb is empowered if detonated with another Nova Bomb. Nova Bomb final blows and weapon final blows while you have Devour gain super energy. What? What? Chrono Tempest is an exotic that is decently powerful, but rather than managing to maintain it unexciting when used compared to other options in Sandbox. Plus, Chrono Tempest on Stormcaller Warlock, this is a bit more thunder, don't you think? Increase the duration of connective times in PvE from 7 to 10 seconds. New effect, while you have at least one stack of conduction times, Ionic Sentry creates a storm grenade when it is deployed. Mantle of Battle Harmony has been left a bit in the dust over the years, so can now trigger its super energy gain or weapon damage bonus set on sustained weapon damage in addition to final blows. After casting your super, you gain surges for all elements and weapons matching your super damage type, causing detonations when hitting targets for a moderate duration. What? New effect. While both this helmet and blink are equipped, you can now use your air move input to form a dark blink horizontally in any direction. This ability has a longer cooldown in Crucible. Blinking or dark blinking now grants volatile rounds in addition to the volatile explosion. Don Koros now causes your Scorch to build up even more intense ignition, grants melee energy dealing ignition damage in addition to Scorch damage. Remove the internal cooldown on energy gains from Scorch damage and returned it to slightly more energy overall. Now causes Daybreak projectiles to immediately trigger an ignition. Nothing Manacles. Extra Shriekers no longer chain themselves. Just the initial grenade. Reduce the Seekers generated and reduce the range of them. Controverse Hold. Reduce the return energy from that. Demo Fusion has been a recurring point of feedback, allowing far too easy kills while being completely safe. Increase the damage ticks. Increase the time between damage ticks to 0.3 seconds. That's all for now. Thank you for continued support and that. Okay. I see you, Destiny. Going to see a lot of Nova Bombs. That should be interesting. So it seemed like the Skull Dire Ahamkara. After casting a Nova Bomb, briefly gain a free cast. Your Nova Bomb Cataclysm is empowered if detonated with another Nova Bomb. So how does this work with Vortex? Destroying the Cataclysm Nova Bomb with a Nova Lance creates a Nova Vortex alongside the Cataclysms, so there's no point in using Vortex then. right? After casting a Nova Bomb, you gain a short period where you can cast a Nova Bomb Lance. If you have the Cataclysm Nova Bomb, and you destroy the Cataclysm Nova Bomb with a Nova Lance, you instantly will create a Nova Vortex on top of the Cataclysm's Nova Bomb Seekers, and you gain super energy on Nova Bomb Final Blows and Weapon Final Blows while you have Devour. The damage resistance is just going to be intrinsically a part of it, it's not going to be part of the text, because that'd be too fucking long. So, wouldn't... I'm going to have to see how that is. So I really think that Devour, the Devour one and the new aspect along with Skull of Dire Ahamkara with a Cataclysmic gonna be good. And then Nezarec Sin could be interesting too. So you have Nezarec Sin's base stuff, but if you have Soul Siphon, if enemies damaged by it are suppressed, defeat a suppressed target with anything or Soul Siphon grants an additional 1.5 seconds of Abyssal Extractors. So if I do Devour, Devour with the new aspect, have Nezarec Sin on, gain a bunch of weapon kills, I can just activate my melee, gain Soul Siphon. Activate another melee, get more Soul Siphon. But I'm mostly interested in seeing how Necrotic Grips is going to affect this. Let's take a look-see here. Has the TWID dropped? No, it has not. Alright, Red Faction, with that being said, I'll see you guys later. Probably the TWID, when it comes out, I'll read that as well. With that being said, hope you have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.